throws. He lays out and makes the catch.
And we're back for another episode of the Double Switch Podcast. I think I started that a little early, but we're all good. We're back. Johnny, the Phils are doing Phils things, except they're doing it with Little Leaguers now. Little League Classic was on yesterday, and right on cue, the Phillies lose on primetime television in a frustrating game. That's okay. I'm not angry. You know, old Josh would have been angry at that, but I'm just going to push that aside because, you know, the day was awesome. I really enjoy watching teams play in like different places. Like it's so much fun, you know, because it's different. And baseball is kind of such a routine game that sometimes just mixing it up is good for everybody, you know. But no, yesterday was fun, and overall, you know, the season's been fun. I mean, I know we're on a little stretch here where people are starting to get a little antsy because, you know, expecting a few more dubs than we've been given. But, you know, we're here. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Josh. Good to be back on the podcast. Yeah, we're getting towards that time of the year, aren't we? It's already getting into late August, and we're still on top of that number one wild card. We got to play that Little League Classic. Let me touch on that. It's a brilliant idea. And I really think that's what separates baseball from a lot of other sports. A lot of other sports, you don't see the grassroots efforts like that. You don't see the pros connecting with the Little League associations like that. Yeah, whoever thought of that is brilliant, and keep that going. That was really, really cool. I'm sure it was a really long day for the players. They were probably very tired by the end of that day, but kudos to all of them. Even the Nationals guys were just awesome with the players.
Yeah, it was fun, and you're right, because baseball does a very good job kind of capitalizing on the game as a whole, not just the sport. And, you know, the NBA, the NFL, I feel like they're kind of focused on like their individual leagues and like what the league offers, versus MLB really tries to be a baseball thing, not just an MLB thing. And yeah, it was fun, and I'm sure it was a very long day, specifically for Wheeler, who, you know, pitchers are routine oriented people that just because, you know, they pitch on 5 days rest every, you know, season for the most part. And just to have that day leading up to it, I'm sure that was pretty uncomfortable for him. So that's kind of why I think things kind of went wrong for him there in the first inning. But yeah, no, it was awesome. And just hearing the guys talk, I don't know how much of it you saw. I don't know if you saw the earlier part with media and Little League. Yeah, I watched just about the whole day, and like, I don't know if it was just like me and like I was paying closer attention, but it kind of felt like a more candid version of Bryce Harper, which was super refreshing because he did not sound scripted at all. His interview in the booth about his kids, I mean, heavy stuff from a guy who generally doesn't show any kind of vulnerability in terms of emotions. You know, he's just this bulletproof guy who just he's not scared of anything. And he opens up about how it takes a toll on him being away from his kids and everything. And, you know, the players giving interviews in the field. It's just, it's well done. And the more of that, the better for everybody, really.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's been a while since we've seen like Harper just, I mean, I could probably only count a handful of times where like I've heard him give genuine responses to like media. I always tell you, I think he has video game responses. It's literally like you could ask ChatGPT, hey, what's a good response to a reporter for this question? And it would give you that. But no, Harper, I think we found his trigger. It's children. He was in his element, and make this man the commissioner of baseball. He just gets it. He completely understood the whole day from the get-go. It was never about him, and big tip of the cap to Bryce Harper.
Yeah, big tip of the cap to Bryce Harper. Big tip of the cap to the Media Little League team. It was so cool watching all the Phils cheering for their hometown Little League team. Usually it's the other way around. The kids are cheering for the big league ball club. That was awesome. Unfortunately, they lost. But, you know, most teams are going to lose, so it's nothing to really get too upset about. But no, good day. I wish it could have ended in a win, as I kind of wish, you know, a lot of these games would have ended with a win, because I kind of feel like we're going through a stretch here where we're giving some games away, and it's I don't even want to say it's frustrating, because after some episodes, I don't want to seem too rash, but it is kind of annoying, because these are winnable games, especially
we dropped the
against
ball.
the Nats. Yeah, especially 2 out of 3 against the Nats. Friday was probably the worst of the losses, but no, these are annoying.
Yeah, we really can't be dropping the ball like this, especially when I think we went into the National Series 3.5 up of the top spot with a little lead on there. Had a great chance to bring it up to at least 5 games up in the first wild card. Instead, we're 2.5. We have 2.5 games up on the Giants still, right? And we're just making it interesting, because why wouldn't we? It's the Philadelphia Phillies. God forbid we just win the games we're supposed to win.
Yeah, you'd think after the past couple seasons where this team really had to put themselves in an uncomfortable spot to get into the playoffs, those were stressful seasons and months, and you think they would do everything they can to avoid that. But they're not. They are making it a little tougher on themselves. But where are you at in terms of just kind of general feel of this team? Do you think this is kind of just do you think they're ever really going to be able to be that team we hope they can be in terms of just consistency, or do you think that it's an imperfect team that's probably just going to end up where we think they're going to end up?
Yeah, I think they do have an imperfect thing to them where they just don't. Their makeup, it just isn't great for like a team to sustain for 162 games sometimes, because they're streaky, and those streaks don't always line up, kind of like other teams do. And for some reason, it just feels like this team is built like a tournament team, kind of like how the new playoff is. They're kind of just built to get going in a shorter series. They're kind of built for like a best-of-5 series. There's few teams I'd want to play, like the Phillies in one of those divisions. Josh, looks like you're having some camera issues again.
Yeah, right on cue. I am having some issues with my camera, and that's weird.
Well, it throws you at a good spot.
That never happens, so I don't know. I'll definitely I'll call up our IT crew after this episode and try to get that sorted out.
The double switch IT will take care of it.
Yes, definitely. No, it's we're rational in terms of we think of like what this team, like where this team could be. It's a very weak wild card. You touched on the Giants, who are 2.5 back. After that, it's kind of a cluster of teams that don't really scare you, and it's teams that really haven't been here before either. The Cubs are young. The Reds are super young, like one of the youngest teams in baseball. And the Marlins, I mean, that's a team that has not been to the playoffs together, so they're kind of working their way through this. The Phils are that grizzled veteran group that you kind of expect to take charge here late in the season, and I just hope that they realize that they are that group. They're the hunters here. They're not going to they shouldn't be hunted like the past couple seasons, because they're experienced. They've been there. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're fortunate that we're in this spot with these teams, because you look over at the AL wild card, we'd be out. We'd be on the outside looking in, and there'd be a couple teams ahead of us before we get to a playoff spot. So it's partially luck, and it's partially a result of us, getting to this point. We do have kind of a big gap here, being 10 games over 500. So as long as they can kind of keep doing what they've been doing, all will be well, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's the thing. In other scenarios where some of these wild card teams they were like the Padres and the Mets, like we thought they were going to be. Some of these deeper, powerful teams, I'd be a little more scared, but you just can't scare me with the San Francisco Giants, the Miami Marlins, the Cincinnati Reds, the Cubs. Chicago Cubs scare me, though. Believe it or not, I think that they are the Phillies of last year. I think they have that sort of vibe to them. And as I thought about it today, bored as hell at work, it made more and more sense. A lot when you start looking at some of these younger guys and some of their acquisitions in the offseason, they kind of have a similar blueprint.
Yeah, no, they do. And I know you mentioned that you're not scared of the Giants. You know, I hate to be that guy, but if they do get that second wild card spot, our record against them ever since they got Gabe is dreadful. I think don't mark my words on this, but I believe we're 3-12.
Nah,
And
that was then. This is now.
I do not want to play. I don't want to play fate with that because that would really be annoying watching us lose in the wild card series to Gabe Kapler at home. So that would stink, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm with you. I'm confident, and just up and down the roster, I know that there's a lot of disappointments this season. You know, there's a lot of guys who are not playing as well as we hoped. But I have some weird faith in what the unit is as a whole, with the exception of one kind of main part of the team. And I guess this is going to kind of lead us into the second part of this episode. Pitching staff is kind of not where I thought it was going to be. And I know we've kind of drilled this into the ground. And I know you've really remained unfazed by it for a while. But I think, Johnny, that you might be the last person in Philadelphia who still has faith in Aaron Nola, because I don't see it anywhere else. No one. It seems like everybody has given up on him. And look, I understand your faith, but I also understand why people are giving up on him, because it's August and we're about to be into September, and it seems to be getting worse. Yeah, I don't know. I was with you for a while there, but yeah, alarm bells are going off now. I don't think he's going to figure it out, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, but what do you think figuring it out is for Aaron Nola? What would that look like to you?
I think that's like a 3 or 4 week stretch where he lowers his ERA by half a run.
Okay, I think that's fair. I think that's
Do you see that? Do you see that happening?
I think it's very possible. Yeah, I think it's very discouraging that he's had about 1 million starts to kind of make tweaks to some of these obvious mistakes. And he's had plenty of time to make adjustments, but I still think I don't think it's like an Aaron Nola physical thing. I don't think he's like hurt or anything. I think it's just like a mechanical tweak away from kind of starting his pitches where he wants to, instead of I just don't think his pitch path is like really, like, for a lot of his pitches is where it needs to be right now. And I think that's exactly why he's not missing any bats. You just can't, with his stuff, you can't start anything in the middle of the zone, maybe except for the curveball, because you can get away with that once in a while. But I think he is a couple tweaks away from figuring it out. And yeah, going on that 4 or 5 start stretch where I could see him doing 4 starts in a row with 2 earned runs or less. I think that's very possible. And I don't know why it just has to be like such a remote possibility. Like, I don't know why he's going to be broken. I don't know why we all got to hate him.
No, I'm with you. I was always on kind of the Aaron Nola does not deserve a lot of the hate that he gets. But the reason I'm not as confident as you are, the one thing Aaron Nola has always been very good at is working deep into games. And even when he was had bad starts, you'd see 6-7 innings out of Aaron Nola. I don't think he's gotten to the 6 and 5 his past 5 starts. That's not good for a guy who kind of bases his identity off of durability and saving the bullpen, working deep into games. I think it was probably mechanical to start. I think it's kind of transitioned into a mental thing now. So I think there's just too much working against him now. He needs to get his head right, and then he needs to figure out what's actually wrong. And that seems like a tall task for this point in the season where, you know, these are high pressure games. We are in a playoff chase, and you have the whole town at this point.
I feel like the whole fan base is being a bit naive, just thinking that he's mentally broken and there is not a fix that could happen in the next, how much would we have, a month and a half, 2 months left?
6 weeks.
6 weeks, yeah. I think it's definitely something him and Kaufman have been trying to work on and probably have figured out. So what's that? Just leave it to implementing and then getting in the right headspace?
I think headspace has to come first, right?
mean, yeah, they both got to come right around the same time, ideally.
He needs to feel like he's like right now you can tell he just doesn't feel like he's a good pitcher. He needs to feel like he's a good pitcher, and then you can figure out how to actually be a good pitcher. I think he needs a mental skills coach just as much as he needs Caleb Cotham, because
Well, but what if it's just as simple as there's something wrong in his delivery that's been kind of making his pitches break a little earlier, kind of reducing that late break on his pitches and his command. And what if he makes that tweak, has a really nice outing, remembers he's a good pitcher, and then that spirals in a good direction?
yeah, it's a possibility. But I think I have so much faith in Cotham and the staff. I think they would have found it by now. And I think that Aaron Nola is going through stretches like this where he did not look good. And he struggles with home runs, and he just looks out of rhythm, and he seems to be able to work himself out of it. But this is this the longest stretch you remember him being just relatively ineffective?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it kind of makes me think that it's more than that. But it's a major league athlete. There's so much to it, and it's way more complicated than we're making it sound right now. But no, you're definitely right. It could just be a mechanical thing.
My optimism is probably killing some people right now listening.
Yeah, so
hating this.
I've always wondered about this, and I guess we could do a case study on it one day. Do you feel like people are dying to paint Aaron Nola as a villain? Like, yeah. Well, and I never understood it because he's homegrown and he's a good pitcher, and everybody just him and Wheeler side by side. Wheeler's not having a super good season either, by his standards, upper threes ERA. And there was a stretch at the beginning of the season where they were both kind of the same level of pitcher, and people are quick to point out when Aaron Nola's bad, but they're not as quick to point out when Zach Wheeler's bad. And I'm just curious as to why.
Yeah,
I will never know.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. I was thinking that same thing today. I'm like, Wheeler never gets any of this hate, even on his worst days. There's always an excuse for Wheeler, but for Nola, it's always he sucks, he's broken, don't re-sign him.
There's probably a parallel there between Nola and Rhys Hoskins, because as we remember last season, Rhys Hoskins gets a lot of the blame for
what?
It's disproportionate to kind of some of the free agent guys, because like JT Real Muto, who goes through these stretches where he's pretty bad. You don't see people clamoring hate towards JT when you compare him to like Rhys Hoskins and his college streaks. It's just weird because homegrown guys have like different standards, and I don't know why.
Yeah, there's really no logic in that either, because you would think the guy that we watched coming up, we would have more unwavering support for, and the guys that played on very cheap contracts and produced for several years for us and carried bad teams and kind of kept us sane. Aaron Nola just played through a 4-year, $44 million deal and probably should have been making way more than that based off his results past 4 seasons, but he's still a villain. You're right. Him and Hoskins, that doesn't.
Yeah, and it gets even weirder because it's not like all homegrown players, because Philly loves Bohm and Philly loves Bryson Stott. They don't like they're fine. Like they're royalty here.
I think I got it here. I think I thought it up.
Let's hear.
I think people kind of mentally tie Aaron Nola and Rhys Hoskins to the bad Phillies.
Yep.
Because they were a part of the bad Phillies.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I think that is it. I think because when I asked myself when I was catching myself being a little hard on Hoskins, like why I think he why do I not think he could be on this team for the long run? I'm like, because I'd think of him as a guy that played for a losing team.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's weird, and I feel for Aaron Nola because he doesn't deserve a lot of the hate that he gets. I recently saw something, and I just wanted to kind of get your input on this. So, assuming the Phillies make the playoffs and they have a 5-game series, throw 4 pitchers out there, what's your staff looking like if you were in charge of that decision?
Yeah, that's the question everyone's
That's
getting
the
around.
question, because there's a certain someone who you and I probably agree 100%, like no questions asked, needs to be in the rotation. And suddenly there's a huge group of people that think he should go to the bullpen come playoff time. And I could not disagree more. But yeah, the floor is yours. Let me hear your 4 pitchers.
Well, I think we all know who you're talking about. But yeah, I'm going. What you said? This is a best of 5 series. I get 3 starters.
Yeah, I was going to say 4 starters. Let's just do 4 for the sake of a 7-game series, because you'll need 4.
Okay. All right. First of all, this could obviously change. Health is probably going to be how Thompson decides this, because you want the healthiest, strongest arms in the top. But as of now, I'm going Zach Wheeler 1. I'm going Ranger Suarez game 2. Then I'm going to go
Dun, dun, dun.
probably Aaron Nola.
In game 3.
Probably. Yeah, I was in between him and Michael Lorenz in game 3. Still am. I think it's going to be whoever's the hottest hand is going to pitch game 3.
And who's your game 4 starter?
That's Nola or Lorenzen. I honestly think Taijuan Walker should be out of it.
Okay, so you're going Lorenzen, Nola, Suarez, and Wheeler. You're 4. I'm going Wheeler game 1. No debate there. I'm going Nola game 2. I'm going Ranger Suarez game 3, and I'm going Taijuan Walker game 4. And I know you're probably not going to like that. Couple of reasons my list is different. I don't want Aaron Nola in a game 7 under any circumstance.
Fair.
Yeah, it sounds awful. And Ranger Suarez sounds amazing in game 7.
Yeah.
There's actually a strong argument to be made that Nola should pitch once in a 7-game series, but I'm not going to go that far. I'm going to have Taijuan Walker. Go ahead.
I think that's kind of warranted based off what we've learned about Nola. If he's full of juice, then let him go. But I don't think he's the kind of guy that pitches on short rest and does well.
Yeah. There's a super strong argument.
That's Ranger.
Game 4.
That's Ranger.
And Ranger's that guy. But I'm going Taijuan Walker as my 4th starter, because I don't think Taijuan Walker is going to be able to pitch out of the bullpen, and we already know Lorenzen can. That sounds easier. You know, you can bring in Lorenzen after Nola, if Nola has a bad start and goes 3 innings, you have a good bulk reliever. Taijuan Walker, I don't even know if he's ever done that before, so I don't know if we can count on him. But the moral of the story here, I don't want to get too much into details. Aaron Nola, you have to live and die with Aaron Nola at this point, and I don't like the thought of that, but it's just the way it is. Like, either you win the World Series with Aaron Nola or you lose the World Series with Aaron Nola. But either way, finally, Aaron Nola's pitching. Aaron Nola's starting and he's pitching, and he's going to get his innings in the World Series via starting. He's not going to come out of the bullpen. You can argue like that he shouldn't even be on the roster with the way he's pitching, and say whatever you want, but they're not going to do that. And I agree, they should start him. I mean, I can't promise you he's going to pitch good, but you just have to live and die with him, you know?
Oh, my God. Yeah, that is exactly how I've been feeling, and I didn't have the words for it. But, yes, this guy's on contract. He's respected within the team. We're living with him. We're dying with him. We'll lose with him. We'll win with him. It is what it is. But you're right. He's going to pitch if we're in the playoffs. He's going to be on a World Series pitching staff.
Yeah, and if he sucks, I mean, you can come back and you can tweet at us and say, I told you so.
Can say,
it is what it is. I mean, he has to start. And I'm getting kind of sick of seeing stuff like that, because it's Aaron Nola. You're going to start him. So let's kind of put that to rest. I think that's kind of all I had for this episode. I hate to kind of bring it to like a standstill real quick like that. You got anything else about the team? I think Bryce is kind of coming around with the power. Alvarado's back. Bullpen's in good shape. I think the X factor is the pitching staff down the stretch. And
I got to say I'm not going to go into it because I think we'll let it play out, and I think it could change this week. But I think that the rotation, I mean, not just Nola, I think all of them are kind of worrying me right now. I think we've seen a little bit of bad Taiwan Walker, which is scary because it gets really bad really quick. And we saw bad Michael Lorenzen, Ranger Suarez on the IL. I think that's phantom, but I think we need this week to swing the direction with pitching staff. We had such great momentum before. Let's get back to that this week, and let's win some frickin' ball games.
Now, so Walker has a dead arm, which sounds about right. I mean, he did not look good.
Yeah.
Ranger, it's probably a phantom. Do you think they're going to do this thing where they just put guys on IL with mysterious injuries the rest of the season?
Well, it'd be silly if they didn't after last year, where everyone fizzled out.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, you should probably worry about the big guys first, because we're the two workhorses at the front are the arms that we're worried about kind of fizzling out. If Nola's the next guy, you will not hear any complaints out of me. I think that would do him some good to kind of get him off his feet and stop pitching for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think him and Wheeler could both use it. And I'm curious if that's not usually the Phillies style, and baseball doesn't like to be obvious about that sort of thing. Baseball players are very prideful. I don't think they like to fake injuries like that, but both these guys' velos dropped in the World Series. Why not?
Yeah, and that's another reason it kind of stinks is because you have an opportunity here to separate yourself in the wild card and make these games not as important. If we were up 6.5 games here, you don't need Zach Wheeler. Yeah, you don't need Zach Wheeler as much as you do when you're up 2.5 games. But we're not in that spot yet. That's not to say we can't get to that spot. It's just, winning some games here would do everybody some good.
Yeah. Well, I think that should be our parting message. Games. That'll do us some real good.
There's a consensus there that winning will be. I'd be happy. You'd be happy. I think everybody would be happy with some wins. So yeah.
Everyone believes in this team. Just do the winning thing, please. No more of this ugly loss stuff.
Well said. And I think that should kind of do it for this episode. As always, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for supporting the podcast. If you are an Eagles fan, go check out Pick Swap Media. All kinds of good stuff over there. I'm going to fix my camera, and you guys will see me next week live, and it will work for good this time. And, as always, thank you guys. Talk to you soon.